When the show ended, how did it make you feel? Ugh, that was awful. However, we did constantly want to hit each other while also loving and hating each other. Hollywood star Cybill Shepard has a starry past. Her golden locks glistened like the southern sun, and her face was worth $1 million. Her debut role was enough to shake up the film industry. In the years that followed, she made multiple appearances on stage at the Golden Globes. They said she was destined to be a shining star. She would eventually become consumed by that attention. Cybill Shepard went from superstar to near rejection due to her passionate but scandalous affairs, her ugly romance with a married director, and her encounters with the hidden power structure of the television industry. Once the applause died down, she had to confront the unimaginable. Skin cancer, excruciating agony that felt like she wouldn't make it, and complete isolation due to her past fame, which no one could ever forgive her for. For what reasons did a famous person's star suddenly fade? In her autobiography, Cybill Disobedience, Cybill describes her journey as one that was honest, intense, and outspoken. Why did she ultimately decide to stop hiding everything? The reason she informed everyone is about to become clear to you. Born on February 19, 1950, Shepard spent his childhood in the traditional and peaceful city of Memphis, Tennessee. She belonged to a middle-class family. William Shepard was the breadwinner in the family, while Patty was the housekeeper. William was her younger brother, and Terry her older sister. As one of 3 children, she occupied the position of middle child. The name Cybill was a combination of Cy, the name of her grandpa, and Bill, the name of her father. Although the name is unusual, it is simple to recall. Hollywood would forever associate it with that name. Even at an early age, she was noticeable. Her vibrant eyes, fair complexion, and luscious blonde hair made her impossible to miss. People recalled her for her demeanor rather than her physical appearance. Go to East High School, and you'll see that she wasn't your typical Southern teen. Instead of sitting around and hoping for people to come after her, she actively sought out those she liked. She went so far as to skip class once in an attempt to land a modeling job. Getting caught would have grounded her, but it was irrelevant to her. For Cybill, life was destined to be different. At the tender age of 16, she entered the Miss Teenage Memphis pageant in 1966. After winning, she represented her city at Miss Teenage America. Although she did not advance to the finals, the title of Miss Congeniality was bestowed upon her, a modest but significant honor. It demonstrated that there was much to admire about her beyond her appearance. She would go far with that quality, but it also made her easy to manipulate. Cybill began her modeling career at a young age, in addition to her academic pursuits. At age 18, she was appointed Model of the Year. She went from being a glamour cover girl and L'Oreal brand ambassador while still a high school student in Memphis. Seeing that one picture altered the course of her entire life. While waiting in line at the grocery store, Peter Bogdanovich spotted Cybill on the cover of a magazine. Just the kind of thing he could use when casting a female lead in his next film. "Who is this girl?" his agent immediately telephoned her. Cybill was invited to try out for the Last Picture Show after a few weeks. This was her first acting role, and she was ecstatic about it. However, this was also the initial instance where her private life was exposed to the public. Nobody lent Cybill a hand when she left Memphis. She achieved great success by standing up for herself, never apologizing, and refusing to settle for mediocrity. However, it was precisely this quality that earned her the respect and dread of her Hollywood peers. The 1971 film debut of Cybill Shepard was a groundbreaking event. The Last Picture Show, directed by Peter Bogdanovich, was a groundbreaking black and white film that cast her in the lead role. The film bravely tackled sensitive themes like sexuality, loneliness, and the unseen struggles that West Texas youth encounter. Cybill famously undressed in front of a glass door in a living room while portraying a young woman who was stunningly beautiful, but icy and manipulative. She had just turned 21 years old. Cybill discovered something essential and unfiltered in movies that she lacked formal education or training for: the power of presence. Impressively, for a model in her debut film role, she received an immediate Golden Globe nomination for New Star of the Year. The entire film, not just Cybill, was brilliant. With one nomination for Best Picture, The Last Picture Show was one of 8 films nominated for an Oscar. It took home 2 prizes. Many people still think it's the greatest American film of all time and a landmark from that decade. Playing J.C. Sparrow was the turning point in Cybill Shepard's career in film. It was more than just her first part. Hollywood no longer saw her as a model turned actress after that scene. She was soon referred to as a sensation by many. More importantly, she brought the entire company to the realization that not all forms of beauty can be controlled. Upon leaving The Last Picture Show, she went on to star in films such as Taxi Driver, 1976, and The Heartbreak Kid, 1972. Betsy, played by Robert De Niro, became an obsession for both Travis Bickle and the audience in Taxi Driver, despite her limited screen time. One thing that set her apart was the icy, vulnerable expression she wore. However, Cybill wasn't limited to acting in films. For as far back as she could remember, there was a reserved aspect of her personality. She accomplished her Hollywood goals and then pursued her second passion, becoming a singer. Cybill pulls it off. The year 1974 saw the release of her debut studio album, To Cole Porter. A lovely, romantic, and unmistakably female voice sang a medley of classic jazz standards. Traditional jazz, which demanded more skill but couldn't conceal an absence of emotion, was Cybill's preferred genre over popular pop. Not everyone was interested in hearing her sing, so she didn't become a singing queen. Cybill Shepard continued to release albums from 1990 to 2006, including Mad About the Boy, Cybill Gets Better, and At Long Last Love, Cybill Shepard sings Cole Porter. Outside of the studio, Cybill performed music at small cultural events, jazz clubs and bars, but she didn't do it to sell tickets. She did this out of genuine devotion to her craft as a musician. Her voice wasn't particularly powerful, but it had an endearing sincerity about it that is rare among famous singers. Additionally, she brought music to the television. She played Cybill on the sitcom from 1995 to 1998, allowing her to indulge her passion for singing on the job. Behind the noise, music was still her refuge. Cybill Sheridan would often switch from sarcasm to song, singing soulfully amidst everyday scenes. Although Cybill's acting and singing careers were booming at the time, she chose to put them on hold in order to start a family. The late 1970s saw the birth of her first child, a daughter named Clementine Ford. "I could have more roles, but I would never have that moment with my daughter again," she mentioned in an interview. She returned to acting and supporting parts on series like Fantasy Island after spending time with her family, 1977. By that point, Cybill had transformed. A figure that was both familiar and hard to find, she had transformed from the exciting newbie into the woman that everyone looked forward to seeing each week. From 1985 through 1986, Cybill Shepard portrayed a character unlike any of her previous work. It was in the role of Maddie Hayes, a destitute model who, alongside Bruce Willis's erratic partner, David Addison, runs an odd detective agency. The romantic comedy detective series Moonlighting on ABC had witty dialogue, a rhythm that blended comedic elements with love drama, and quick-witted writing that brought to mind stage plays. Moonlighting gained significant attention. The electric chemistry between Bruce Willis and Cybill Shepard, however, was the main draw that kept audiences glued to the screen. Funny, seductive, and delicate all rolled into one, it was as taut as a violin string. Their natural chemistry and high energy elevated the entire show, qualities that acting classes could never replicate. For her portrayal of Maddie Hayes in a musical or comedic TV show, Cybill received 2 Golden Globes in 1986 and 1987. At the time, she was referred to as the golden face of primetime TV by the press. Plus, Maddie and David were named by TV Guide as one of the top TV couples of the 2000s. Therefore, Moonlighting elevated American television. It went from being a genre show to something that screenwriting classes study. Certain programs completely disregarded all regulations. Some were musicals, some were noirs, and in still others, the actors addressed the audience directly, breaking the fourth wall. The idea's focal point was Cybill. She wasn't just stunning, she was also a strong, capable woman who didn't need men to get by. The creators of Moonlighting have stated it time and time again. Without Cybill, the show would not have found its unique voice. In addition to starring in this show, she was instrumental in developing its signature fast-paced, humorous, and complex dialogue, which served as an inspiration to countless others. Moonlighting was a financial success, but behind the scenes, Cybill Shepard and Bruce Willis' relationship was deteriorating. The show's iconic co-creators were even more estranged from one another. Things that began as minor disagreements escalated into open confrontations. Both of these individuals were very determined and would not back down. Their co-star Curtis Armstrong revealed in his autobiography that the two were perpetually at odds. Cybill was often characterized as tough, while Bruce was lauded as easygoing and a guy's guy, despite the fact that both were equally exhausted from the show's risky environment. It is said that a man is decisive when he yells. The term diva is used when a woman speaks out, Cybill remarked, after a long time had passed. Additionally, Cybill learned she was expecting twins around this time, which put a damper on production. Still, the press failed to grasp the situation and place the blame on her as the reason the show blew up. The Die Hard films catapulted Bruce Willis to stardom, which altered his daily habits and career aspirations. Their sexual chemistry waned as they collaborated less on set because they could hardly meet each other's gaze off camera. Both the writing and the working conditions became intolerable in the last few seasons. In 1989, after receiving praise as an innovative TV hit, Moonlighting was finally discontinued. Cybill appeared to have achieved new heights after making the transition from film to television, winning 2 consecutive Golden Globes. A co-star who had been her ideal on-screen partner was now merely another character in the frame, and she had to cope with stress, sexism, and arguments behind the scenes. The screen wouldn't have felt that real without the tensions on Moonlighting, she once said. But it was expensive. After filming Moonlighting, Cybill Shepard realized one thing. There is obviously a shadow side to every triumph. A brighter beam casts a darker shadow behind it. In 1995, Cybill Shepard made a triumphant return to television with a series bearing her name. At this point, she was responsible for coming up with all of the show's concepts. The middle-aged and once popular actress Cybill Sheridan was the protagonist of the sitcom Cybill. Currently, she is juggling the responsibilities of being a mother-in-law, raising her children, and battling against an industry that is increasingly centered around youth. According to Cybill, the persona represented me only saying everything I used to hold back. It was a response from a woman whose attractiveness was once lauded, but who was ignored as they aged. In addition to starring in the show, Shepard was involved in its production, story writing, and overall direction, as well as deciding on its tone and message. Without a doubt, she came out on top, because it addressed issues that American women over the age of 40 had never dared to discuss on television. For example, having an ex-husband, experiencing midlife sexuality, feeling lonely without expressing it, being a single mom, being replaced by younger actors, and Hollywood's double standards. Cybill became an immediate hit. It was a feminist take on Lucille Ball's deep satire. Critics compared her to Lucille Ball in the 90s for that reason. Cybill received her third Golden Globe for the program, and Cindy Baranski took home the prize for Best Supporting Actress. All 3 seasons of Cybill ranked among CBS's top 20 most watched programs, and the show received 12 Emmy nominations. In addition to her financial success, Cybill also had an impact on popular culture. Big Little Lies, The Good Wife, Grace and Frankie, and subsequent series shifted the focus away from older women and toward them. When asked about Cybill, Christine Baranski remarked that it was the first television series to feature female characters who weren't defined by the men in their lives. Behind the laughter, though, was a terrifying reality. Cybill claimed in an interview with SiriusXM that she declined Les Moonves's sexual advances, which led to the abrupt cancellation of the show in 2018. At the time, Moonves held the position of powerful CEO at CBS. She got the idea to bring him home from Moonves while they were drinking at a private dinner.